Hello, and welcome to Season 3 of the Vedic Conversation, where each episode we take a different topic and look at it through the lens of storytelling and from the perspective of the Veda, an ancient but still very much relevant body of knowledge from India. I'm Anthony Thompson, a Vedic meditation teacher based in London, and I'm joined by my Vedic colleagues Derrick Yanford in New York and Rory Kinsella in Sydney. In this episode, we're joined by our very special guest, Jameisha Prescod, who lives and works in London. Jameisha learnt Vedic meditation a couple of years ago and has an extraordinary story to tell of her practice of meditation when suffering from a debilitating illness. She works as a journalist at BBC Africa Digital and is the founder and digital creator of You Look OK to Me, which is an online platform for chronic pain where she creates blog posts, infographics, animated videos, and short documentary content to raise awareness for chronic pain. Let's get into the conversation, and don't forget to stick around until the end, where we'll share with you how you can become involved in the conversation. Busy is the way I think I would describe you. How do you do it?
I don't know exactly, to be honest with you. I feel like sometimes when you finish something, you look back and then you're like, oh yeah, wow, that was a lot. But in the moment, it's just, I don't know, you kind of just do what looks right and what's fun and what's good experiences or what you learn from. So I don't really know exactly, just sort of happens, basically.
Yeah. But you're obviously a very proactive person. I mean, you're very creative. You go out there and make things happen. But do on occasion people approach you and say, hey, we'd like to commission you to do something? Because the films you did for the BBC Africa, were kind of interesting things. Were they your projects or were they things that the BBC commissioned you to make?
So I work there as a day job. So for BBC Africa in particular, like that's my 10 to 6 basically. But I always try to find a way of making personal interest work with them. So I basically took them to the side and asked them if I could do a couple of more health-based things, and they said yes. And then some of the videos came out. So the one about the hydroxychloroquine shortages and how that impacted lupus patients in Africa, that was simply just because I was like, I want to do that. Can I do that, please? And they said yes. So it worked for them, and just try find a way, basically, by asking.
I've looked at some of your films, and what's so interesting is that frequently you're the director, the cameraman or camerawoman, I should say, and the editor. I mean, you're a sort of tour de force. Amazing. And do you ever have people working? Do you collaborate with people in the production, or is it pretty much a solo event?
I'm starting to collaborate with people more, which I'm thankful for, and it's teaching me better skills. I think early on, I just wasn't able to have the opportunity to collaborate with anyone based on not having the funds or people just not having the time. So I was like, I still want to do it, so I would just do it myself. But it's kind of made it get to a space where I don't know how to delegate, and that's also not a good thing. Like, I don't know how to work with people. Like, there was one instance where my boss had basically got someone else to work with me, and I didn't really know what to say to her, to be honest. I was like, well, I don't really know what you should do, I'm not quite sure. And that obviously was an example of maybe I need to start working with people some more. And I've been doing that more often, like collaborating recently. The stuff just hasn't come out yet. But usually it was by myself, but it was more out of necessity than anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're also a podcaster. I know you're a frequent guest on podcasts, but tell us about your podcast.
I had like a short run. It doesn't like it's not continuing at the moment at its present time. I just was trying it. That's why I was speaking off the podcast to you earlier, that I appreciate what podcasters do, because when I was trying to do it, it was a very difficult experience. But I wanted to do one about just people talking about moments in their lives that make them feel vulnerable. So I think I was having a chat with a friend of mine who I went to high school with, who just became a doctor. Like, she just qualified, but in a pandemic. So she said that she never got a chance to really like ease her way into it. So when the ward's going all over the place and someone's calling for a doctor, she wasn't responding because she was like, oh, I'm just a med student, when they're like, no, you. And it was such a, I don't know, like a vulnerable sort of thing to say. And so I wanted to explore more stories of people saying stuff like that. So just a couple of, it's like, I think there's only 3 episodes, but just a couple of my friends, we were just talking about those moments, and it was nice. It was kind of a nice sort of little chat, but hopefully at some point I could do it more, but podcasting is hard, as I'm sure you all know. So
I think you got your podcast has the most brilliant title. It's I'm Okay and Other Lies. It's just brilliant. That's brilliant.
That's what we all say, especially here in the UK. I feel like, when someone asks, how are you doing? We're like, I'm all right. And then you keep it moving. You don't usually go into the whole explanation as to how you actually are, because often we don't have time. So I was hoping that those episodes could have been the time that people do speak about those things. But yeah.
Do you think it's time, or do you think it's that people feel socially awkward and embarrassed? I mean, do you think that's a particularly sort of kind of British UK kind of thing, an attitude and a sort of reaction, that we feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about our intimate and personal feelings, and perhaps even showing our vulnerability? That's something that perhaps is a quality that we need to become more comfortable with.
I would agree, definitely. I mean, I feel awkward a lot of the time when people ask, which is strange because I do a lot of talking about that stuff online, but it doesn't feel as intimate. It feels safer to do it online when you're not directly in front of another human. But when you're directly with another person, there's these thoughts in your brain about, oh, they don't want to hear all of this, or I'm going on for way too long, or I've been talking about myself so way too much. They're going to think I'm some narcissist or something. I have all of those thoughts, and then that usually results in the, yeah, not too bad, like, it's all right.
Yeah, that's the other English answer that I was going to mention, not bad. It's like, not good.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
It's just a non-answer, isn't it? It doesn't
Yeah.
really sort of mean anything. It's just a kind of glib throwaway. And so tell me a little bit about your approach to your day. I know you're an avid meditator, but sometimes, like for all of us, life gets in the way, and for yourself, you have some challenges, which I know you've spoken about publicly. So perhaps you could share some of those with us today, about just how you kind of get through your day with such a chronic illness.
I mean, it's always such a tricky question because I find the hardest part about having lupus or any kind of chronic condition is that it's hard to know what the day's going to be like beforehand. And so days look different, or you could plan beforehand and then the morning comes and that plan's out the window. So essentially, days sort of start with me having to evaluate there and then what the day is going to be like, and responding to what my body is asking for me and what the environment is saying, and then also just any other external factors. Some days are pretty cool, wake up like everyone else, sometimes nice and early, sometimes not. I work, and especially in this current time as well, work from home and try to eat well and exercise and all these things. And there are other days where I sleep for 18 hours at a time for like 2 weeks, or I can't even brush my teeth, like there are some days where I'm so weak that I can't do anything, can't cook, can't clean, and anything in between, basically. So it really does vary, but I think it's been about 6-7 years since I got diagnosed, and so now it's a matter of, okay, I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a bit stiff today, and kind of just adapting moment to moment. I've become a lot better at that, and now it's less of a shock when a day like a flare-up happens. It's less of a shock, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And also, just like, I'm now in my days more transparent with people about what I can and can't do. So whereas before I would try to hide it and be like, okay, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, sure. And then sometimes even let people down because I just completely can't do anything. But now I find my communication is a lot better with those around me in the days about what's going on with me.
And for our audience who don't know what lupus is, could you
sorry.
very kindly just give us a brief outline of what that's all about?
I say it so casually now as I forget that it's the whole thing. So lupus is an autoimmune disease. So essentially what that means is, your immune system, if it's acting healthily, it protects your body from intruders, so viruses and bacteria, infections. But for people with autoimmune conditions, it doesn't work properly and it attacks the healthy tissue in your body instead. So when it comes to something like lupus, it can affect anything: your hair, your eyes, your joints, your muscles, your organs. Luckily, my lupus is at a stage where my organs are unaffected, but and it can cause various things. So fatigue, joint pain, and muscle aches are like the three main symptoms. But for me, sometimes it could be my skin. It just starts with getting a spontaneous rash across my face. Sometimes I forget my words. I have bad memory. I can't read just because my brain's just not processing information. And to be honest, these days, even symptoms come up now. I'm like 25, and I was diagnosed when I was 19, and I'm like, oh, that's new. That's nice. Okay, that's a symptom as well. Like, great. Like, so new things can come about at any point. But yeah, that's essentially what lupus is.
So thank you for that explanation, but you have such a positive and kind of almost compassionate approach to this, very debilitating disease. Do you come from a family which is naturally cheerful and optimistic, or is this something that is this the Jameisha quality, or is this something that you've learned to do which might have helped you?
I don't know if my family's naturally optimistic per se. We don't really have a history of that much illness. So even to have illness this young is quite rare in my family. I would say, to be honest, like the disposition I have for it has come with time, and have come with the fact that I have been able to become more open about it. I think it takes a load off, so you're not carrying it by yourself. I'm trying to think, because I think for me, I can't speak for all Black people, but I know that for my family who have an Afro-Caribbean background, and my friends who have a similar background, things like this, like lupus, are not spoken about openly. It's oftentimes quite under the surface. I mean, I had an auntie who passed away from the same disease I had, and I didn't even know she had lupus. Wow. Nobody said it. So I saw her once, did not know that essentially she came to the country because my other aunt felt like she didn't have much time left. So that's the only time I met her. She passed away, I get diagnosed, and then I realize, I only get told then, oh yeah, she died of that. So it actually was very hush-hush. It was very kind of, no, don't talk about it, blah, blah, blah. So maybe the disposition comes from the fact that maybe I've broken that cycle of what that used to be, and it's actually quite freeing to be able to just say this to you three, to even just say, I have lupus, this is what it is. That is something that I guess I haven't seen in my family personally. So maybe that's why, I don't know.
But it seems that you've created this online space called You Look Okay to Me, which has become popular because there are so many people unlike you who find it difficult to speak up and acknowledge their illnesses. And obviously what you're doing is incredibly encouraging. I mean, I looked at it and saw some of the comments. I mean, it's amazing what's going on there. You must be very proud and pleased to be able to help people like that.
I am happy. I mean, I didn't think that it would be anything. I sort of just did it for me because I went to film school and I couldn't do what my other classmates could do. So I was just like, okay, let me just try something that's creative, but I can speak about what's going on. So it surprises me every day to see when people write stuff like that, and makes me feel like I am doing something worthwhile. Because at the beginning it was just a small little project. I didn't care who saw it or who but now when I see that, like the first time, I think a few years ago, somebody said, wow, I've never actually told my family out loud this is what I was dealing with, but you helped me get the language to do so. That really surprised me. I was so shocked. I didn't realize that just sharing your story could do that for someone else. But then if you think about, I guess, the way we are, like, we're storytellers. Like, I feel like humans love telling stories. We connect and communicate in that way. So therefore, that's what sort of the page continue to become. And now I'm trying to make it so it's not just me, and that other people, should they choose to, can cross over and do that. Because in that way, I think someone can pick something up and go, oh, actually, then I'm not abnormal. Or, oh, actually, it's okay to actually ask my doctor this. That is, to this day, I'm still like quite surprised that happens. Because I don't know, sometimes I think me, like little old me, like I didn't think I could help anyone. I don't know, sometimes I still feel like that. I feel quite small, I guess. And I am small, and that's fine. But it's nice to know that at least I could do something for one person. If I leave the planet knowing one person, that does make me feel fulfilled that I could do that. But yeah, it's nice. Takes a bad thing that I got diagnosed with, that sucks, you know, and I still, look, it sucks still. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my God, lupus is great. It's horrible, like, you know, especially in the days where you're lying in bed and there's no one else. It's your body. You're the only one inside and you're feeling it, and no one, like, can take it away from you. That sucks. But if there's a good that can come out of that for someone else, then that's nice. That's really, really good.
So I'm really curious about the role meditation plays either now with your condition or before. And I'm very excited that you're like the first student of ours that we've had on the show so to speak about it from that perspective. Yeah. So how long ago did you learn to meditate?
So I know it was May. It was May 2019.
Okay, so...
Wow, it's almost 2 years.
Okay, and in that time, have you noticed a change or a difference in either your approach to your condition or how you share it that's, like, noticeable?
Definitely. I had a level of self-awareness prior to meditation to some degree. I do think having a chronic condition makes you quite tuned into your body, but in a negative way. So most people don't think about their left big toe, you know. But if your joint pain is in your left big toe, you're going to think about your left big toe a lot. Like, so it does make you very hyper aware of where your pain is coming from. But when I started meditating, it increased this awareness in my body that was not negative. So it wasn't always like this negative association. It was this thing where it was like, I don't know, I just became more fine-tuned to the way my body responded to things in general, to the way that my brain responded. I just felt like I was more, what's the word that you use, Anthony? You use this particular word, and it's not even a hard word. I just can't think of it right now. Now I've lost my word. Like, there's a word that, like, you're more like conscious, but that's not the word I'm thinking of. But like, I just become a lot more self-aware. I know it wasn't a hard word. Like, I did something really basic. Like, I just become a lot more self-aware and also like slowed down. My brain thinks really quickly, and it kind of helped me slow that down so that when I'm feeling pain or not, it's not just about chronic illness. I'm able to process it, ask questions, and think. Like, I didn't have that before meditation. So, like, it definitely changed a lot. And to be honest, interestingly enough, like, let's just be transparent. Like, I'm not always consistent sometimes because of my condition. It throws me off routine. Whereas I said I sleep 18 hours a day sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, yes, my meditation two times a day, blah, 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 flare up, stops that. Mm-hmm. But then being a meditator made me go, it's okay. Like, because I know prior to that in my early meditation, I'd be like, no, you need to meditate you see, you messed up the pattern now. Now you got to start again. Like, it was like a competition with myself of being this master meditator. And then as I did it more, the self-awareness of today wasn't the day, it's okay. Okay, tomorrow we can try again. Like, that's changed as well.
That's beautiful. Like, that's, to me, honestly, that's music to my ears as a teacher, to hear how incorporating the practice has allowed you to see the beauty in your imperfection and not hold yourself to this standard that we create for ourselves. But I guess I'm also interested in parlaying that into this, like what you were talking about in the beginning about even the subject of how am I doing or whatnot, and the visibility around that. Because what I think is so interesting in having this conversation with you, my own bias too, is that I'm looking at you going, oh yeah, you look okay to me. You present like everything's fine. You know what I mean? And I'm curious as to I don't know how your experience of maybe helping others wanting to understand it's not something detectable by what we see. Like because a person maybe isn't behaving in a way that says, oh, there's something wrong, that has really nothing to do with what's going on. Do you know what I mean? And so now from this conversation, I'm thinking, yeah, how many things am I judging about what a person is or is not purely on the aesthetic presentation that they're having?
Yes. Yeah. And even though I am a person that presents as fine, I still do the same to others sometimes and have to slow down my thoughts and go, you don't know either. I still do it, you know. Sometimes I've seen pictures of certain people getting the vaccine that are my age. So I'm like, how comes they? And I'm like, wait, you just got yours. Like someone's gonna look at you and go like, you know what I mean? So it's slowing that down as well. I think meditation can help with that too. I think knowing if you become more self-aware of yourself and you realize that everybody else has their own thing, it makes, I don't know, it slows that down, because I think it's normal to judge, but it can slow down the process before, I can't speak properly, but like it slows down the process and then makes you question that judgment beforehand as opposed to just letting it be. I think that's helped me with that too.
Well, just hearing you say, I also do it, gave me a little bit more relief, because I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you know, I'm not there. Yeah. I think there's something about, I was listening to a podcast today. I think it was Oprah Soul Session. And this woman, it was kind of the same thing. People would ask her how she was. She was like a new mom, or she had 3 kids. And when she was at the playground and she was asked, how are you? She described herself as this dormant volcano about to erupt. And when she saw the faces of everybody, she was like, oh, we're not talking about it like that. Okay, I got you. You know what I mean? So I definitely feel like, yes, there's this question, how are you? And then what do we even really mean that? When I asked you that, does that mean I actually want to hear how you are? Or, you know what I mean? And if it is something that is really needs to be unpacked, why we don't do that enough, or what is it about, how can we change that a little bit? And I feel like the work that you're doing, this conversation, is somehow helping me give myself permission to go, you know, you might ask that question and have all these judgments, but slow yourself down and remember, you might get an answer you're not ready for, you know.
Yeah.
But this is what the reality is. I can't tell what's going on with people, you know.
I agree. I think you, to be honest with you, that was beautiful. So I feel like I can't even add to that, to be honest. It's just, yeah.
It reminds me of those, like another one of those tricks of language. Like as an English person coming to Australia, I would greet people saying, all right, you know, which is what English people say, all right. And Australian people would take it so weirdly. They'd be like, yeah, do I not look all right? I'm just saying hello. You know, it's just one of those trick, like, hi, how are you? It's just, you're basically just saying hello. It's not, you're not really asking how they are. It's just this kind of convention. It was exposed as a foreigner in this country, just that normal thing of going, all right. And then they'd be so thrown off going, am I? I don't know. But it was also a good way of signaling to other English people that you were English, just by saying all right rather than hello, g'day. You know, it's all the same thing.
Was it that, and also the excessive amounts of sorry as well?
Yeah,
that too,
I'm
maybe.
sorry. I'm sorry for asking.
Sorry,
I don't want to.
Sorry, what did you say?
It's also interesting what you. I loved how you expressed about forgiving yourself for not being consistent on the days that you don't feel good. It's one of those bits of advice that as teachers we say, and when you're not feeling well, you can meditate more than twice a day, as much as is comfortable. And you know, even when, so my worst I felt recently, I got dengue fever last time I went to India, and felt awful and didn't feel like meditating. And it's one of those ones where I'm not following the advice that I give, which is meditate more when you don't feel well, because if you don't feel well, you can't do it. So I think it's, like you said, it's much more important to have that attitude of being okay, self-forgiveness. Like, we're creating this relationship with ourselves, and that's about being okay, like accepting each moment as it comes and forgiving ourselves each moment. Because, otherwise we're adding in, we don't want meditation to add this stress point of, oh, I haven't done it, which it can, yeah. If you've been regular, I've been stressing when I've been on holiday, trying to find somewhere to do it, or going, well, how am I going to do it? I'm meeting someone, and it's so helpful. And I loved how you expressed it once we get past that. Like, that's mastering it. It's not doing it consistently. It's having that relationship to it where if you don't do it, then that's also fine.
Yeah, I mean, like, those thoughts still come sometimes, the bit of guilt and a bit of, I think guilt's the word. Like, sometimes I feel a bit guilty, but it is having the reflection to then say, oh, you're feeling guilty, and then having that self-talk along with the guilty feeling to say it's okay. Like, a lot of that inward conversations, that does help, because, I know everyone is different and has different experiences, and whereas some meditators might still struggle for various other reasons. My struggle is lupus sometimes gets in the way. I had a surgery recently as well, and I was in the hospital, and I was trying to calm myself down and because I was in hospital, I was like, okay, I'm going to meditate a lot more. But then after the surgery, I was wiped out. That morphine really, really hit me, and I struggled, and the guilt even came in, because I was like, you're supposed to do this, but then it's the moment of pause, and then to be like, okay, you're feeling guilty, it's actually okay. And you being stressed does not make you a better meditator. Like, just, see how you're feeling. If you can't do it this evening, it's okay. Like, let's try tomorrow, and let's see how it goes from there. As I said at the beginning of my meditation, it wasn't like that. And there are still moments, as I said, that creep in, but I'm doing better at kind of just, I don't know, like, just helping myself with those feelings, and just looking towards the future for the next day and be more forward thinking.
What was the draw for you for meditation? What drew you in, and why Vedic meditation?
I was in a really funny place at the time, I think, and I felt like things were happening just to me rather than I was living intentionally. Like, I just felt like things were just happening to me, and I was just sort of this thing that reacts to it as opposed to making the decisions. And it was actually when I met my boyfriend, who is one of Anthony's students as well. He actually mentioned it on the first date, and I was a bit suspicious. I'm not going to lie. I was like, why is this guy mentioning this so much? He's like, it really helped me, and it's so good. And I'm like, is this some weird group thing that he's trying to he's trying to get me killed or something? Like, because I really was like, it's a bit,
On the
not
first,
sure about this.
He mentioned it on the first.
On
date.
the first, yeah, and he was really enthusiastic. Like, he's like, my friend, he's the teacher, and he's amazing. And I was like, okay, yeah. And he got me the website, and I was like, okay, this is good, this is cool. Like, it was just a lot. And then obviously I went on a couple more dates after that. So clearly I was fine with it. But and then he spoke to me about it a bit more, and it did resonate with where I was in life at that time, because I had lost like my cousin the year beforehand. He took his own life, and then there was just other things that just kept coming on to each other at the same time. And then by 2019, which a year since my cousin had passed in March, I just started my job, and I was in a bad team, and they were kind of abusing us as staff, like overworking us. So we were getting burned out, and a lot of us were just talking, and it, sorry to say, but it would be stuff like really bad thoughts, like, oh, if I get hit by this car, this is some of the stuff we said to each other. If we got hit by the car on the way to work, we wouldn't have to do the job. That's where a lot of our heads were. That sounds really terrible. I'm sorry to say that on the podcast, but it wasn't just me feeling like that. And I just was like, I don't like feeling like this, And then I thought about the thing I was showed a few months earlier, and I was like, and I started asking him more questions about it, and I went on the website and looked at it properly when I was ready, because I think I wasn't ready for it clearly at that time. It was a bit like a lot. And then because I had looked at it myself and I had like read it, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do this because I think I want to kind of feel more intentional. I don't want to feel like these things are just happening to me. So I didn't actually even tell my boyfriend. I just booked it. He didn't even know till I was like going there, and then did the course. And it just was amazing, to be honest with you. It was an amazing experience. And then just funnily enough, the subsequent things that happened afterwards, I quit the team and I moved team. I did like all these other things for myself. I just changed all these things in my life, and my life by the end of that same year got a lot better. And I do think it was because of the meditation and allowing me to be more self-reflective, and that actually these things don't have to just happen to me. I can make these decisions and I can just, see how it goes. And yeah, genuinely, like, it changed a lot. It really did. I'm not just saying that. It really mean it. Like,
that's a beautiful story. That is a gorgeous story.
And obviously, I'm not perfect. Like, it's not like I'm arrived at the destination, but it definitely helped me a lot that year, starting it.
Yeah.
What I'm picking up through a lot of your comments, Jameisha, is this concept of giving yourself permission. Giving yourself permission not to meditate, and then giving yourself permission to learn to meditate, before that. And it's also letting go of something, letting go of the concept that you have to do this, that there's an expectation, which I certainly hope I never placed upon you.
No, you absolutely did
I would
not.
have failed miserably as a teacher.
You absolutely did not do that.
But what was so fascinating, I remember teaching you very well because you were absolutely ready for it. It was the right moment and it was effortless for you, and you just picked it up so quickly. And it was a wonderful experience for me. But it's so heartening to hear some of your stories about what's been going on. And of course, I know your boyfriend, and and I've seen some of the changes that have taken place with him too. And I think you make a very powerful couple, very very creative. But it's not many couples who are both Vedic meditators. And there's a different dynamic, within the relationship and as a couple with other people. There's bound to be. I speak from experience.
It definitely does help. I mean, because obviously in those early stages, I was watching him do it. So he'd be like, "Oh, I have to do my thing," and I was like, "Oh, okay, let me just." He's like, "You don't have to be a mouse. You can just do what you're doing. I'm just going to be over here." So I was like, "Oh." And when I'm seeing it happen, I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is like not what I thought it was. It's not the cross-leg thing that I can't do. The lotus pose thing. I can't do that, Like, that's what I thought it was, and I thought it had to be 60 minutes. That's what I thought it was, and it had to be an hour. And I know some forms are like that, But when I watched that he was sitting up, and it was like, doable, and also watching how he reacted to things as well. And just as you said, I was ready. It had to get to that point where I felt like I wanted to start it. And so now sometimes we do it together, sometimes we don't. And he was the person also that reminded me, because like in those early stages, I'd have conversations about feeling bad about not doing it. And he's like, why don't you just like talk to Anthony? And I was like, no, I don't want to talk to Anthony because he's not even going to be angry with me. It's actually me being angry with myself. But then now it just makes me feel worse. And he'd be like, that doesn't make any sense. Just talk to him. Ask him about it. He's your teacher. And I'm like, no. He's not putting any pressure on me. It's myself. But I don't know what it was. It's just me. But, it just takes time. And I'm just meeting myself where I'm at in that present moment as well. But yeah. So he has been helpful on the journey, I have to say. He has been very helpful. I'm sure he will appreciate that.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm curious about one other detail, if we can go back a little bit. I was reading a blog post that you had written about the difficulties of getting your prescription medication and how Brexit was going to affect your access to it or whatnot. I'm kind of, and in that particular blog, it was like the 9th pharmacy that you had gone to gave you what you needed. I'm just curious now that it's, we're 2021, has that been reconciled? Are you having that same difficulty? How has that played out?
So I had a mixture of difficulties. So the first, obviously, as you mentioned correctly, I had difficulties finding the specific type I needed because of there was like a shortage that might have been due to Brexit. And then COVID came, and President Trump decided to say that hydroxychloroquine can cure or can significantly help COVID, which meant there was another shortage in 2020. So I actually couldn't find it because of that as well. I was calling pharmacies and they were like, do you actually have lupus? Because they were getting calls from people to try and get it from the thing.
Oh, wow.
So now I'm fine because my mother and I, thankfully for her, had to drive us around the South England area looking for a pharmacy, and we found one not too far away from my house, but a bit out, that had a patient that needs the same one that I have. And the pharmacist was such a lovely person, and he said, I'll keep this stock for you and this person. So you come back to my one and we can keep it for you. So thankfully, we're all good. We're all good for now. So
beautiful. Yeah. Okay, because I knew
I'm
there was
very grateful.
There was like this possibility of maybe having to go to the Czech Republic or something like that, which I feel
I was like, do I have to go over there? Like, I will, but do you know what I mean? Like, I hope not. Yeah, it's because it's very strange. It's because the other ones are cheaper. They have filler ingredients, but that makes some people very ill. So yeah, but yeah, it's all good for now.
Okay, good. I'm happy.
Thank you.
No, it's funny too because I feel like in America, I've heard, we have prescriptions here that in Cuba are like a fraction of the price, or in Canada it's like an outrageous price. And I haven't really met anybody who's had that particular struggle. But then when I think about it, it's like we're talking about something that you actually need to live. If you don't have this thing, you can't live. And so I want to say in the UK, you have health coverage, like that everybody in the UK has it, or...
Yeah, it's like there's the NHS, so you have access to that, but they are under a lot of pressure at the moment, partly obviously right now because of COVID, but also partly just from sometimes funding, and it's quite difficult. And I try as much as I can as a patient to empathise with the hard work that the doctors, nurses and the like have to go through. But there are occasions where, because of that, sometimes the struggle with that and the fact that it's not like private healthcare, sometimes people fall through the cracks. And I was one of those people. It is hard when, for example, one particular pharmacist, I asked for my medication and she just didn't care. And I was trying to explain to her, I was like, this is my life. Like this, I have to have this to live. She's like, it's too expensive. We can't stock it here. She just was like, sorry, but we're not paying, because the pharmacists have to foot the bill for the expense. So in the States, my particular brand of medication, I think it's like $60 a pill. I think that's how much it costs over there. Obviously, because of the NHS, I only pay £9 for my box of 3 months supply.
Wow.
But the pharmacists are having to foot the bill on their end. So a lot of them don't want to buy my one. It's expensive. But she didn't care. And for me as a human being, I just felt so tiny. Like I was like, wow, like, do I matter? Because to you, I'm just this. Like, I'm just like an expense. But for me, this means so much to my life. So there are occasions where I've been through health struggles, and I'm in one at the moment where sometimes you just feel so little. And I'm very grateful to still have the healthcare, but sometimes it can be hard to have treatment like that and not feel like a human, I guess. That it can be difficult.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine having a condition where if I don't get a particular thing that I need, it means I'm not having a life. And then the struggles of trying to get it and dealing with those people who either don't understand or don't care, like you described, like that is not an experience I've ever come across or really met anybody and had that conversation. So thank you for sharing that, because it puts color and context, I think, in the fact that I don't have to do that. I don't have any, and I don't live in a country where everyone has healthcare or has access to it. But hearing this conversation makes me even more appreciative for everything that I do have. So thank you for sharing candidly your own struggles with it, because it changes my understanding of what people's struggles are. So I appreciate that.
Oh.
It's good not having Trump with his megaphone anymore. Encouraging people to get drugs that aren't appropriate.
That had such a knock-on effect. That was eye-opening in terms of the effect that somebody's words can have on people's lives. Obviously, we know that for various other reasons for certain presidents, not just Trump, other people too. But like, for the story I did for my workplace, I wanted to know how that impacted people in Africa. And there's a girl that we are friends online, and she's got lupus and she lives in Nigeria, and she's from a middle-class family. But hydroxychloroquine is originally an anti-malarial drug, which is very readily available in West Africa because malaria is more common there. So you can buy it off the shelves as opposed to needing a prescription for it. Oh. So when Trump did that, she was supposed to be interviewed by me, and she rang me and said, I can't do it today. We can't find hydroxychloroquine. We're just trying to find it. And then in the end, she did get it, but she had to pay, I think the price went up 200% because people were upselling it. So you see, this guy just said it. It didn't even have a lot of evidence behind it. And in the end, there's a girl who was 16 whose parents are now struggling financially because they're trying to pay for hydroxychloroquine for her. It's very interesting how someone saying something can mean that for one person over there, And she said, I'm middle class. I don't know what that would mean for a Nigerian that's not middle class, that doesn't have parents who pay for her medication. So that fascinated me, to be honest. That was really eye-opening.
But I think, that's the kind of the measure of that particular man, that he never understood or cared about the ramifications of what he said. He just said it, for whatever reason, usually very glib and shallow reasons. But yeah, it's fascinating, that one comment made in Washington ripples right the way across the world, to a country like Africa. And impacts on people there. It's dreadful. But turning to cheerier subjects, what irons do you have in the fire? What projects have you got coming up? What are you working on? What would you like to do that you haven't yet done?
I would like to, write more. So it'd be really cool if I would get the opportunity to write a book or something. That would be so cool. The first job I ever wanted in my childhood was to be an author, Jacqueline Wilson. She was this children's author I read all the time. So when I was 6, I was like, that's what I want to do. So it's weird how if that could be possible, that'll come full circle in life. So that would be really cool. I would like to write more. At the moment, I'm doing an interview series for other people with chronic illnesses about what their first flare was like. So a flare usually is your first when your symptoms sort of become really prominent. So I kind of ask people, what was that first moment like, and what would you tell yourself now that you have all this experience with your illness? What would you tell yourself back then? So I've interviewed a couple people, so I just have to do a few more to put it out. And I would also just like to make more documentary type stuff, more long form, more than 10 minutes. That would be nice. Just got to plan it and actually make the time for it. That's at the moment, and also just regular work stuff at the moment. I have a lot to do, but I'm happy with the different things. I think they make me feel fulfilled. And meditating, of course. Meditating and journaling.
Yeah.
And did you mention earlier that you're just 25? Are you 25?
I'm 25. Yes.
Oh my Lord! Wow, I'm blown because I feel like you've accomplished so much. You're doing so much. You have so much you want to do, and you're 25. That's amazing.
But it's so subjective, isn't it?
It's not going to be one book. It's going to be a bookshelf.
Oh my
books.
gosh!
You're just going to do it.
But it's so interesting how that's subjective though, because most people that are my friends think that they're old at 25. I mean, obviously I don't agree with that because I just think you are where you are, personally, but a lot of people feel pressure to do stuff right now at 25 because they're seeing these 18-year-olds making feature films and stuff, and they're like, what? I'm 25 though, and they did there's a lot of that, or the fear of turning 30, which is happening, and people are like, oh my God, we're going to be 30 in 5 years. I'm like, yes, that's okay. That's fine. So it's just interesting you say that because I know that the people, when they speak to me, they're just 25, I need to be more, I need to get a house, I need to do all that stuff. I wonder, like, maybe will it ever be enough? Like, you know, no matter where you are, like, will it ever be enough, the achieving or whatever? I don't know if that ever hits the spot. I think people always just want like more, and I'm trying to just be grateful like for what I have and the help that I have, and just do cool stuff and enjoy it. That's what I'm trying to focus on more, like just do cool stuff and enjoy it, but hopefully having the financial means to do so. But yeah.
You know, just in terms of age, because when I think of when I was 21, I loved my life. I was very active in a particular skill set that I had. But at 45, I'm trying to take things off of my plate. I'm trying to not do stuff. That's cute. You could, you know, you were doing it before. But I just feel too, I'm like, oh, at 25, I wasn't doing those kinds of things. And that's okay too. But I guess I would, if you hadn't told me you were 25, I would have never thought, I would have thought you were mid 30s, or, you know, like you have all of this wherewithal about you already that just seems that you're much more ahead than I would have. Again, and here's my bias. Oh, I have an idea of what 25 is. It's not you, kind of a thing.
But to be honest with you, like, I mean, they meant this in the nicest way possible. My mum always says I was like the miserable old lady of her kids, to be honest. Like, she's just like, you were always just so, like, old. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. I think I've just always been like that, you know, like just giving slightly older energy, but it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll take that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for sticking around till the end of this wonderful story of determination and resilience. This season, we want to engage with you, our audience, and would love to know what topics and themes would be of interest to you. Also, would you like to be our guest? Perhaps you might be interested in coming on the show and talking with us. We'd love to have you. Please share your thoughts and ideas with us with a direct message on our Instagram account. And for those of you who are not camera shy, please feel free to share a video with the hashtag #TheVedic Conversation. Goodbye.